What's up guys, Pete with Auto Repair Tips. It's that time of year again, summer's approaching. Everybody's starting to use their AC system. This guy here turned it on and said it was blowing hot, so let's check it out and see what we got. If I can operate the door okay. Let's see here. All right. Let's turn the AC on, the AC's on, recycle button's on, so that's as cold as it gets. It's on here. Definitely no AC, it's blowing hot, almost like the heat's on. All right guys, I'm gonna pull it around, I'm gonna open the hood, we're gonna check the compressor, make sure it's running, see if the fans are on. If it's running with the fans on, I'll stick my gauges on it and we'll get some readings. All right, let's get this thing inside. All right guys, when you're hooking your gauges up, you got a high side and a low side. The high side is always bigger than the low side, so you can't mess it up. So get your gauge on there, just snap it on. I say just snap it on. Come on bitch, get on there. There we go. I had to two-hand it. Low side is back there. In the same way, you reach back and snap it on. But make sure if you go do this at home, you cut the car off first. Leaving it running is not a good practice. I just do it, and I probably shouldn't. All right, let's take a look at these readings and see what we got. All right, looking at the readings, there's should be enough Freon in here, because see where the gauge is at. If you didn't have any Freon at all, the gauge would be down here on the low side. The high side is sitting at 100. A good operating system on a day like today, I think our temperature is like 78. The high side is going to be somewhere between 150 and 200. On a real hot day, it could be between 2 and 250. But your low side's right around 30. And looking at this, I do see Freon in the car, so we need to see either the compressor is not pumping or something's not kicking on. Now, I just heard the fans kick on, but that's because the temperature of the car got higher, not because of the AC machine. And another thing to remember is, when you hit your AC button, the fans should always come on. If you have one fan, it's coming on. If you have two fans, both should come on. All right, after talking to the customer, he put some Freon in himself. So what I'm gonna do is evacuate it all and go back in with 1 pound. Looking at the gauge, it looks like it's over 1 pound. So I'm gonna evacuate it, put 1 pound in it, and then let's see what it does. There was definitely too much Freon in the car. It calls for 0.40, so we're gonna put that in the car now. All right guys, you can see the fan cutting on. The compressor is definitely pumping. Guys, if you look right here, you can see the high side's at 150, so I know the compressor is working somewhat. The low side's not coming down. In this situation, you just have a bad compressor. All right guys, I'm gonna get the compressor ordered. We'll get the machine hooked back up, get it pulled down correctly, and get the right amount of Freon in the car, and we'll catch you in a bit. All right guys, first step in getting that compressor off is, let's go ahead and loosen and take the belt off. Both these are 12s. You're gonna loosen this one up. And then we'll loosen this one up. We'll get our pry bar and we'll get a little bit of influence on it. There we go. Almost. Okay, we're just about at the end of it. It's a little tight. Sometimes you get lucky and you don't have to loosen up the 14mm bolt down the bottom of the alternator, but it got like that far from the end, it wouldn't go, so I just loosened it up the rest of the way and moved it. Sometimes you get lucky. And we will take the belt off just like this. All right guys, now we're gonna lift the car up and go from the bottom side. The next thing to take off is the lower splash shield, and it is held on with some 10mm. You're gonna have 1, 2, 3, and 4 it looks like. All right guys, the next step is to take off the high pressure and low pressure lines, and they're held on with 12mm bolts. This line is being a little bit of a bear, so I switched to a speed ratchet to get it on there and get the rest of the way, because the 1/4" drive was getting too close to the jug here. You got 4 12mm bolts, 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top. Just use the electric ratchet to get these off, and I'll probably use the electric ratchet with a extension to get the top 2 off. The top 2 bolts are so tight, my electric ratchet wouldn't touch it, so I'm gonna crack them loose by hand and then I'm gonna go up there and get the electric ratchet back on and get them off that way. On this style compressor here, there's an internal clutch, so you're not gonna see it move. It's gonna constantly spin. It's inside here. When you turn that car on, it'll pump, but you're not gonna see the compressor kick on because it's not that style compressor. We got the new compressor in. I'll give you a little tip on this. Lately, I've been finding that the dealership on compressors and some electrical items and even some suspension parts have been just as cheap or cheaper than the aftermarket. When I called around yesterday, Advanced Auto Parts wanted $585 for this compressor. This one here came from the dealership, brand new, $230. So make sure to take some time before you just go to run to the auto parts store and buy your part. Make a few phone calls. Prices have been all over the place lately. So guys, when I pulled the compressor out of the box, there was no tech sheet on it to tell me how much oil goes in the compressor. I called the dealer and they said it is a dry compressor. They did not have a tech sheet either. So I went to my Mitchell on Demand and did some research on it, and it tells me to take this compressor here, hold it upside down, and whatever oil comes out, put the same amount in that compressor. So let me show you what happened when I did that. I went like this and I turned it upside down, and the compressor is bone dry. I'm not comfortable enough to put a dry compressor in there, so I'm at least gonna add a 0.5 ounce. I'm gonna add just a little bit to it. These O-rings right here, make sure you go back with the new. After you go back with the new O-rings, put a little bit of refrigerant oil on your finger and just wipe the O-ring. It'll help seat it. All right guys, and just like that, this is what it looked like after the machine did its test. It said the leak test passed, and it's about a pound of Freon in it is what it calls for. And these are what the gauges look like. So let's go ahead and get it started up. Let's check the gauges and see how cold it's blowing. Check the gauges out. We got the low side at 30, high side about 150. Today's about 70 degrees outside, so that's about normal right here. Let's go ahead and get a thermometer on it. Let's see how cold it's blowing. We have got this thing down to about 46. Keep on going down. 44. I like to see 39 degrees. We might get there. Let's, come on, baby. All right, I am happy with that. 39 degrees. I got this thing down to 39 degrees. If it gets any colder than that, he's gonna have to wear a winter jacket in the summertime when he drives the car. I appreciate you watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Catch you later.